There, the weigh-in podcast is back. UFC heads up north, Winnipeg, Canada this Saturday. Main event, welterweight showdown between Gilbert Burns and Canada's own Mike Malott. 13 fights for us to comb through, preview our favorite spots. We won't waste any time, man. Worst kind of recap here. We're both in the red, me much more than you last week. I went 2 for 3 on my plays that I gave out. I did hit my best bet. I did hit my parlay piece, but missed on the underdog yet again. And dude, thanks to the Reyes Walker staring contest, -4 units last week. I'll let you talk about your results, man. We'll jump into the main event for this week.
I went 1 for 3 on my picks last week. I did hit my play of the night, which was Kevin Holland. I had 3 units on him, so that won me back most everything. But got caught up trying to parlay Kelvin Gastelum, and I think I said it on the podcast, like I kind of deserved it. And then Medeiros wins by decision. I'm happy that, I
You've been in
shouldn't
the
have
middle.
lost money.
I was about to say you've been in the middle of all kind of stuff. The Tyrell
No,
Fortune
like
fight.
that should be a draw.
Yeah, I know. I feel like you should probably get that back, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that back. I was positive last week, but yeah, forgettable card for sure. Betting wise, otherwise it was an awesome card to watch. Really entertaining. Glad we got to see Josh Hokett and him on the White House card is pretty awesome. Moving on to the main event for this weekend, we've got Gilbert Burns taking on Mike Malott. I wish I would have gotten the Gilbert Burns line a little bit earlier. Whenever he was up into the 340s, that seemed very, very tempting. Right now, I think the line is probably where it should be. That plus 210 to plus 230 range is kind of how I line this fight. I think that there's a really good chance that Gilbert Burns is just over the hill at this point in his career. As far as winnable fights for Mike Malott in that top 10, 15 range, I do think that Gilbert is one of the more winnable fights at this point. Mike is very athletic. He's fast. He's long. But I do think that there's a little bit of quit in him. I've seen it a couple times in his fights, and we've seen Gilbert Burns just really dig deep in his fights. And if his chin can hold up this Saturday, I do think that there's a really good chance that in those later rounds, he really starts to pick it up. I think, both at 100% that Gilbert has better grappling, but I do think that he's going to struggle just closing the distance, being a much smaller man. And then that chin really gives me worries. So I do think gun to head, Mike Malott's going to win this fight. But if this gets past even the second round, I think it's going to get hairy, which is why I think that there's a lot of people betting on Gilbert Burns as a dog because there is a pretty clear path to victory. I'm just not sure that it's going to actually get to that second round. Gilbert kind of known for his durability and being finished in 2 of his last 3 fights is a big red flag for me. So probably just a layoff spot for me. Mike Malott will be the pick. I don't really love it though. But we're in Canada. I think the UFC is kind of setting them up here.
Yeah, man, super, super similar thoughts here. It's really hard to get behind a guy who's lost 4 in a row. Like you said, you can raise questions about his durability. Like, it's just clearly not the same guy who went life and death with Khamzat Chimaev a couple of years back. And at the same time, though, man, I'm just kind of like you. I've just never really been a Mike Malott guy. I think he's a little bit fragile, has a little bit of quit in him, like you said. I think the cardio can be concerns. And in a fight where I think his grappling can probably be negated, I just think the chalk on him at now minus 250 is still a little bit too much for me. He doesn't kind of offer a lot of power. He likes to pot shot, use some kicks, things like that on the outside. So, to me, Gilbert has all the power upside, a cardio edge over the course of 5 rounds. It's just at 39 years old, man, and in the current form, how can you be eager to bet him? I just really struggle. It's a tough spot because Malott at one point was north of 80% implied. So, yeah, he was hitting like minus 450 last weekend, and you could get Burns at plus 350, things like that. So, yeah, at plus 210, I don't think it's enough for me. I'm with you. I think the line's close to about what it should be, and maybe a live line on Gilbert Burns or something as the fight progresses. But, yeah, in Canada, the age difference, just the mileage difference, it does kind of feel like Mike Malott's going to get this one for me, man. Co-main event, Kyler Phillips, Canada's own Charles Jourdain. For me, it kind of just feels like how's round two going to play out? Who's going to win round two, Because I don't think Kyler Phillips has lost a round one in his entire UFC career against better competition in my eyes as well. And then you just got to factor in the way he slows down in every fight. I don't know if he's ever won a round three in his UFC career. So I think it's extremely likely at the way Jourdain builds into fights that he does win that last round. Then you got to factor in a little bit Jourdain being in the hometown and probably what's a close fight. To me, he looked to be taking his career a little bit more serious. He's dropped weight classes. He looks shredded to the gills right now. He's finished two durable vets back to back. And while I feel like Kyler's just honestly been kind of stagnant, I haven't really seen a ton of improvements, and we've seen the consistent slowing down in fights. So I ultimately feel like the price may be kind of right. I don't really know how much value there's left on Jourdain, but I'm so hesitant to ever lay the juice on what feels like a 50-50 fight, just because I feel like price-wise, honestly, Kyler Phillips, who was almost a sure end to win round one at plus money, would be an easier click than Jourdain for me at plus money or at minus money. But again, in a close fight, in a hometown, the way Charles Jourdain builds into it, I think Jourdain by decision is my pick. But ultimately, dude, this is just probably the easiest fight on the whole card for me to stay away from. I think it all comes down to how round two plays out. And I'll ever so slightly lead Jourdain. How you see this one playing out?
So we end up on a different pick, but the fight I see pretty similarly. I think that we can bank on round one going to Kyler Phillips, so that's weighing in on my decision. But I do think that between Victor Henry and Davey Grant, those are two pretty winnable fights at 135 pounds, and it doesn't really give us a full picture of what Charles Jourdain can do. Jourdain, truth be told, I don't think that he's the best really anywhere.
Yeah.
As a fighter, I think he has some heart, but outside of that, I think he's kind of a little lackluster as far as his actual talent in MMA. Whereas Kyler Phillips, if he had the cardio, I think that he could be like champion level talent wise. I tend to lean Kyler Phillips here. I think that he's had just some tough draws in his last few fights. Rob Font's a crafty veteran, and it's just we've seen him kind of tune up some people that might not be ready to make that jump. And then Vinicius Oliveira, just an absurd amount of athleticism that's he brings into his fights. But looking back, like Pedro Munoz, Randy Barcelos, Song Yadong, like these are just fighters that I think are just a step ahead of Charles Jourdain. And if we can see Kyler Phillips kind of draw back to his form before his last two losses at the end of 2024, I think that there's a pretty good chance that he is going to win this fight against Charles Jourdain. I think he's going to be a little bit faster. I'm not so convinced that Charles Jourdain in an extended fight is going to look the exact same at 135 pounds. So I'm excited to see that. But there's still a lot of variables there, and I think that the ceiling is higher for Kyler Phillips, which is why he's going to be my pick. All right, so my fight of the night, again, we're scraping here. This isn't the best card to find a fight of the night, but it's going to be Julien Leblanc versus Robert Valentine. Valentine, he's got, is it 3 or 4 losses in a row? I think
3, right?
I think 3. This will be his 4th if he loses. This is the first fight where I think the UFC is actually setting him up to get a win. And maybe not even setting him up, but just giving him, a chance. Right. Because the last 3 matchups have just been really mean, honestly. He's a really good submission artist. He can get the back of a lot of good guys, and if he can't get the finish, that's where we kind of get a little hairy. I do think against Julien Leblanc, they pulled up a local guy who is not UFC caliber and gave him one of the worst guys on the roster in Robert Valentine. So this is a pretty low level fight as far as like real MMA talent's concerned. But I do think that it's going to be a scrap, especially if LeBlanc can get out of that first round. LeBlanc's fighting guys with, less than 12 fights and multiple losses on the record. His last guy that he fought was 6-9, and he's finishing all of these. So I would be interested to see this fight get extended past that first round to one, test Valentine, and two, really give us a feel for how good or bad Leblanc is.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to be a really good fight. So that's why I've made it my fight of the night. And I'll be picking Robert Valentine.
I like it, man. I think I got a good scrap as well. John Castaneda versus Mark Vologdin. Mark's coming off one of the fights of the year, if not the fight of the year, on the Contender Series. He actually got signed off of a loss, and seen a lot of love on the Castaneda side, I feel like, on my timeline this week. So I want to talk about this fight. And to an extent, I kind of get the Castaneda love. At the end of the day, Mark didn't even win that Dana White Contender Series fight. And when I watched it back, maybe I'm overstating it, but I kind of felt like the durability, the heart was on display a little bit more than the skills were. Honestly, I thought the striking defense was non-existent. The dude was as hittable as I've seen guys before. He got taken down, couldn't get to his feet late in the fight. Thought the muscle mass kind of wore on him. He's got some heart. He'll still throw, but I kind of felt like he was a bit fatigued down the stretch. And if he wants to play that range game with Castaneda, I just feel like, I know he's got the karate style. He's fast, but I just kind of feel like the size different. He's just kind of going to get tuned up at range. I feel like if he wants to win this fight, he's got to come in here and just force a ridiculous pace, get in the face of John Castaneda, and really test that durability and test the cardio and test the willingness of Castaneda. Because I ultimately, man, I don't know if Castaneda would have made it through the fight Mark Vologdin did last time out. Castaneda starts good, but I don't know. I kind of feel like down the stretch we've seen Castaneda look for a door at times. But man, 8 UFC fights already underneath his belt. Been in the cage with Nathaniel Wood, Miles Johns, Daniel Santos, and even Daniel Marcos was undefeated at the time he beat Castaneda. So just massive competition advantage, massive experience edge. I think he's a really, really solid, underrated wrestler, and that's a massive advantage that he could have here if he wants to go to it. And then I threw in the height and reach difference. I think he's the better pocket boxer, be able to keep Vologdin at range with some of the teep kicks. But he's 34, man. He's been off of a year. And I think that's enough for me not to lay the chalk here. But I kind of feel like roughly 55% on Castaneda feels about right to me. I think it's a great fight. I think it's all about how Vologdin's going to approach it. And if it's anything like his last fight, man, we're in for a treat. But I like the Castaneda side. I think we're in for a good scrap.
I like it. For my underdog of the night, not picking a person, just picking a line. I like the under in the Tanner Boser versus Gokhan Sarakim fight. We got two big heavyweights, Gokhan making his UFC debut, knocking most of the people out on his regional scene, where Tanner Boser had a little bit of a layoff, then fought a regional scene fighter and is coming back into the UFC. I think that he's got a lot to prove in this fight. If anything, he got cut because he's a somewhat boring fighter, as well as losing in his last stint with the UFC. And I think he's going to push the pace early. So in his hometown, I do think that he's going to get on Gokhan early and fast and eventually try and find that finish where Gokhan, I don't think he changes anything in his game plan, even though he's making his UFC debut. And I think that he could catch Tanner Boser, which we've seen a couple of times. So I think that there's ways for both of these fighters to win. We're getting like plus 132 on the under 2.5 and then plus 100 on the fight doesn't go to decision. So yeah, that's going to be my underdog pick of the night. Again, we're scraping here.
Yeah, I actually was tempted to look at the Tanner Boser side, just money line wise. I'm gonna flip things around, man. I'm actually gonna do what you do this week. I don't have an underdog tracked. The underdogs that I was thinking about was Thiago Moises, and he's in about the worst form of his career, So I'm gonna go with the plus money play I have tracked as well. So at plus 100, I do have Mando Nallo inside the distance. The guy's never been to decision, so he forces a ridiculous pace in his fights. I think his striking is just so pinpoint accurate, and you've got a guy in front of him who is known for being chinny. Just honestly, Jai Herbert's chin has let him down in numerous fights, and when it does, it tends to let him down pretty bad. And Mando Nallo is just a sniper in the pocket, great knees up the middle, and I don't feel like Jai Herbert has the pace, has the wrestling, has anything that we've seen wear on Mando Nallo. So Mando Nallo in Canada, I don't even know if you can really consider him a prospect at his age and his experience, but I just feel like He's so sharp. He's so much better than Jai Herbert in the pocket. And when he touches that chin, Jai's going to go down. So still aside from you, I'm going to go plus money play and go with Mando Nallo inside the distance at plus 100. Got it on DraftKings.
All right. So for our parlay piece, correct?
Yeah.
I'll be going with the hometown girl and Jasmine Jastovicius. I think that she just absolutely murks Karine Silva here. Karine, kind of a sub or bust fighter. She's gotten some finishes on the top as well, but I just don't think it's coming here against Jasmine Jastovicius. Jasmine's never been subbed before. I do think that she's going to be able to push a similar pace to Macy Barber, but just have a lot more grounding attempts. And ultimately, I think she's going to wear on the psyche of Karine Silva whenever she continues to get to her feet and then on her back over and over again throughout these 3 rounds. But even though I do think Jasmine goes to decision here for the win, I just don't really see a scenario where she's losing by finish like she did in her last fight. And I just think that we're getting a pretty decent price tag at only 3-1 favorite odds. So yeah, massive step down in competition from Manon Fiorot. I think she picks up where she left off before that, and she's a great little parlay piece this week.
Yeah, so prior to the podcast, you and I really don't discuss anything outside of the fight of the night, just so we don't overlap there. So I feel like everybody should be pretty confident if both of us have Jasmine Jastovicius as our parlay piece this week, man. This is Estevan Ewing all over for me, man. You got someone who builds into a fight, puts a ridiculous pace on girls versus a girl who consistently slows down in her fights, dude. You talked about it. Karina's sub or bust. That's the only worry you have here from Karina. And if Jasmine's smart about where she puts her head, she ain't got much to watch out for, dude. She is so far superior in the cardio. I think she's the better striker here. So much better wrestler. Just so many more ways to win this fight, man. And you touched on the Barber fight. That's exactly how I think this fight's going down. Just a lot more dangerous on top. You throw in the fact that she's at home. Yeah, man. Karine Silva's actually been finished 3 times in the past. And with the cardio difference, I actually think Jasmine's actually live to finish this fight. So I do have Jasmine parlayed. And I also took a quarter unit shot on her round 2 plus 1,000 and her round 3 plus 1,600. So I'd love a Jasmine Jastovicius round 3 finish this weekend, man. And what you looking at for your best bet?
All right. So for my best bet, I'm going to be going Valentine by submission. I'm not convinced that Leblanc is UFC caliber, and I think that Valentine's going to be able to get it there. We're getting like plus 210, plus 215, and that's how I'm looking to play this fight because I do think that that's Valentine's only real path to victory. And if he doesn't get the sub, I don't really want to see what's next. So instead of laying minus 170 on Valentine, who I believe opened up as a dog, we can get the plus over 2-1 underdog odds to pick his main path to victory. So yeah, I'm going to make that my best bet.
For me, I went Bazooka and Barboza under 1.5. I took it at minus 166. It's now about minus 175, so it hasn't moved even 10 cents yet. And I actually parlayed it with Jasmine to get plus money. I think the UFC stuck someone in front of Barboza that presents very little danger to him, someone that's, doesn't have the power, doesn't have the wrestling to stop the forward pressure of Barboza. And if you can't stop it, you're getting finished early, man. Barboza's 17 wins, 16 of them are in round 1. The power difference here is just night and day difference. And honestly, if it doesn't go as planned, Barboza slows down in fights, and he's been finished in round 2 in his other losses. One of those under the 1.5, one just slightly over. So that covers both of his losses as well. And I just think there's a reason this fight's opening up the card. They expect violence. They expect finish. I think they expect it to be pretty one-sided. And, I think it comes with a Barboza round 1 knockout. So under 1.5, just at a minus 166, minus 175. I think that's my best bet this week.
I like it. Quick picks.
Yep.
All right. We'll start off with Jamie Siraj taking on John Yanis. I don't have much on this fight. Didn't do a lot of research on this one. Yeah. I am going to go with the hometown guy, but not confidently. Jamie Siraj is who I'll be going with.
Yeah, Siraj for me as well. Giannis, I don't know, man. I don't really know if he's UFC level. and feels like Jamie's getting put in a good spot to win in his hometown. John Castaneda and Mark Vologdin, I think we got a banger the second fight of the night. I think Castaneda's going to come out here and put his wrestling boots on, man, and I think that's a big advantage he could have here. So give me John Castaneda.
I tend to agree with you. I think Castaneda is the side here. Vologdin getting a lot of publicity for his last fight on the Contender Series, and I'm not sure that was as much of a good look as it was just entertaining. So give me Castaneda as well to showcase his veteran skills. JJ Aldridge versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Horth, I think, is kind of being overvalued here. If it wasn't Valentine, or no, who was my I had to take it under for the underdog. If it wasn't that under, it was going to be JJ Aldridge, but I don't like backing JJ Aldridge either, man. It just kind of weasels out fights, but I think this fight is going to be closer than the line suggests, even though it's already pretty close. I'm just not comfortable backing Jamie Lynn Horth here. She is, like, I guess, the pick gun to head, but I don't like those odds at all.
Yeah, I mean, you could get like plus 150 on Aldridge yesterday, I think, and now it's like plus 125 on DraftKings that I'm looking at now. I kind of feel like others are thinking the same thing we are, dude. This is without a doubt a super close fight. Even if Horth wins, it's probably a 29-28 close one that she steals in her hometown. So, yeah, all the values on JJ Aldridge. Shit, I'll take her. Melissa Croden versus Daria. I think early on Daria might have some striking success, but I feel like Melissa Croden just kind of has a style to be able to wear on her, has the takedowns in her back pocket. So I'm on the Croden side. I wouldn't be shocked if she were to find a late sub or something, but I like Croden.
Yeah, I do too. I think that she's going to be able to find those takedowns and make Daria pay whenever she is on top. So I'll be going with Croden as well. Tanner Boser versus Gokhan Sarakim. Tough one, man. I hope that somebody finds a finish here because I think that'll solidify them on this UFC roster. Otherwise, I think they're both subject to be cut. So give me Gokhan Sarakim to come in and catch Tanner Boser a little bit early. Hopefully, I just think I'd rather see him a little bit new blood in the UFC than I would reintroducing Tanner Boser to the heavyweight pool. So give me Gokhan Sarakim here.
I'm going to be on the other side, and really only because it's plus money. It's a Canadian guy to bring him back, and he's got what I would consider probably elite cardio for the heavyweight division. Like, if Sarakim doesn't get him out of here early, I feel like Tanner Boser becomes super live as his fight progresses. So I'm gonna be on the Tanner Boser side. Robert Valentine versus Julien LeBlanc. I think I'm on the Valentine side as well, and I think you could use it by the grappling. I think if he gets out of the first round and a half, while it's been a bit of a concern for Valentine, I think it'll kind of actually be in his favor this go around.
Yeah, I'm going with Valentine as well. I think he finds the submission here, and I don't think that LeBlanc is UFC caliber. Dennis Bazooka versus Mauricio Barbosa. I think I'm going the Barbosa side. I think he could get it done early, and for his sake, I hope he does. So give me Barbosa.
Barbosa, round one knockout for me. Thiago Moises versus Gage Young. I just briefly talk about it because I was tempted on the dog for Moises. I think he's got a really good calf kick he could use here. I think he can win minutes from the back. The competition, I just feel like there's so many things that favor Thiago Moises. It's just how do you back a guy who's come out there and honestly look like he's declining, even only being 31. So gun to the head, I'm still going to go Thiago Moises. And it was plus 110 yesterday. It's plus 130. So I guess there is a point where I do play him. I'm not as eager as I was as earlier in the week, but I'll still side Thiago Moises.
Yeah, Thiago Moises super inconsistent. It's like the Brazilian Cowboy Cerrone. Really tough to get back or to back him. But at dog odds, it becomes much more tempting. I'm actually going to go with the Gage Young side, just a little bit younger, a little bit more athletic, and might have a little bit more dog in it than Thiago Moises. So give me the Gage Young side, but it's probably a fight I'm just going to stay away from. Moving up, we've got Jasmine Jastovicius taking on Karine Silva. I think the Jasmine grounds her over and over and over again. She covers that minus 300 price tag, and if she does find the finish, that'd be great. But even if she doesn't, I think she looks dominant in there.
You and me both, man. Jasmine for me as well. Moving on up, featured bout of the night. Mando Nalo, Jai Herbert. I like Mando Nalo inside the distance, sitting at plus 100. The guy's never been to decision. So he's a finished machine. He's finished all 14 of his wins. And I think if he can touch the chin of Jai Herbert with a knee, with a straight shot, nothing changes. I like Mando inside the distance.
Yeah, I guess I'll end up getting to the same place, but I think that if he doesn't touch the chin of Jai Herbert, I think Jai's a little bit cleaner striker than him, and we could have a really good fight on our hands. But I will go with Mando Nalo because I do think that he has the finishing upside here. So give me Mando Nalo. Moving on to the co-main, Kyler Phillips versus Charles Jourdain. I like Kyler Phillips here. He's still only 30 years old, so if he could just tweak the cardio issues and get past that, second round, I think that he wins this 29-28 on most judges' scorecards. And then in those first two rounds, I think he's much more likely to get the finish. So give me Kyler Phillips here.
Value's definitely on the dog. I'd have to agree with his high upside in round one, but I just feel like what he has consistently shown me in the UFC is that he slows down. And so I'm going to side with Charles Jourdain being in his hometown to still a close one, maybe one he doesn't deserve, but Charles Jourdain by decision for me. And then Gilbert Burns, Mike Malott in the main event. I really wish I would have had the balls to track Gilbert Burns plus 350 or whatever last weekend. Now it's just not enough for me at plus 210. I'm going to side with Mike Malott. Ultimately, man, I know it was Michael Morales, but Gilbert, even the jabs he was getting dropped by Kamaru Usman in the title shot, like this guy's been knocked out by Dan Hooker, like there's been concerns for the chin, and at 39, 40 years old this year, if Mike Malott lands clean, I'm unsure if Gilbert can take it. So I feel like Gilbert really needs this fight to extend to be live, and I think I get a better number live, maybe closer to what he opened up at. So I'm going to wait to bet Gilbert Burns, and I think my overall pick's Mike Malott. It's just a numbers thing here.
Yeah, so I lean on that under 2.5 rounds that the line is set at. I do think that Mike Malott finds that kill shot, and Gilbert kind of see. I mean, we're closing in on retirement,
Right.
4 fights down, so maybe he gets one more before he retires, and they give him Nico Price as well, something like that to send him off. But Mike Malott's just at a different point in his career, and I do think that he finds the win this Saturday.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week.
Peace.